Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans from the West Coast. I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, August 31st, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor, Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH, how's it going, my friend?
It's going well, man. Great to be here. Great to talk with you. Very excited. Long weekend in Buckeye football. What could be better?
I love it, man. Yeah, good to hear your voice, my friend. We are also joined by fellow contributor Chad Plummer from Cleveland. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What up, boys? What's going on, man? It's like fucking Labor Day weekend, and it's opening weekend of college football. I'm so stoked, I can't even tell you.
Me too. Fellas, as we speak, Big Ten football is about to start. Nebraska, Minnesota, about to kick things off. I mean, I'm like a kid on Christmas, CP, right? So we are here to preview number 3 Ohio State's 2023 season opener against the unranked Indiana Hoosiers in Bloomington this coming Saturday, September 2nd, less than 48 hours away. The line is Ohio State minus 30. The over-under is 59. The game is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern kick on CBS. And that's right, Buckeye fans. Don't adjust your television sets when you hear Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson on the call.
That's crazy.
It's right. I mean, it will be interesting to have Danielson on the call, for an Ohio State game again. I mean, I could be wrong about this.
Homer.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could be wrong about this, but I believe the last time he called an Ohio State game and the last time the Buckeyes played on CBS was the 2014 season opener against Navy. That was Danielson and Vern Lundquist on the call. It's been 20 years since Danielson regularly called Ohio State games. I mean, do you guys remember? I think he called virtually every Ohio State game during that 2002 national title run. It seemed like he was the voice of the Buckeyes during that season. And as we know now, Danielson has since become the voice of the SEC. He's been calling SEC games for CBS since 2006. Now, this will be the 93rd meeting between Ohio State and Indiana. The Buckeyes lead the all-time series between these two schools 79-9 with 4 ties. Are you guys glad that there are just no more ties? They finally have overtime. I mean, ties were just awful. Anyway, I digress. Now, that overall record for Ohio State, that includes a 56-14 Ohio State blowout in Columbus last November. Now, after a promising 3-0 start to the 2022 season, which included a win over a pretty solid Illinois squad in the opener, the Hoosiers dropped 8 of their last 9 to finish 6th in the Big Ten East. Indiana was pretty dreadful in virtually every facet last season, fellas. 110th nationally in total offense, 126th in offensive yards per play, 99th in scoring offense. I mean, ugh. And then on defense, they were just about as bad. 119th in total defense, 101st in defensive yards per play, and 120th in scoring defense. Now, according to Pick Six Preview, the Hoosiers returned 65% of their production on offense and 72% of their production on defense, though I don't know how much we want to put into that, how much stock we want to put into that, because I heard they have like 25 to 30 transfers out of the portal, Indiana does, which makes them a little bit of a wild card in this game.
Who has more, Colorado or Indiana?
Colorado by a hair, but it's probably pretty close. I don't know. PVH.
No, Colorado by a lot.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Coach Prime. Yeah. We should talk about Coach Prime. But
oh, yeah. I'd love to. They play Saturday, right?
Squad out.
Yeah, they do.
They play Saturday. Okay, great. Now, like the Buckeyes, Indiana had a very tight quarterback competition during fall camp. Tennessee transfer Taven Jackson, a 4-star prospect out of Center Grove, Indiana, has been neck and neck with Brendan Sorsby. Now, head coach Tom Allen, keeping his cards close to the vest, he said, recently, as last week, that he knows which one will start against the Buckeyes, but he wouldn't reveal whether it'll be Jackson or Sorsby. So a little bit of drama there. But that's about the only intrigue for the Hoosiers coming into this game. I mean, the outlook for the Hoosiers, both against the Buckeyes and really for the whole 2023 season, is pretty bleak. Of the 4 preseason publications that I looked at for this pod today, Athlon's, Lindy's, Phil Steele, and then Pick Six Preview was another one. None of them have Indiana, I think, above like 70. I think the composite ranking of the 4 magazines is 76, which would make them the worst opponent on Ohio State's schedule, the worst FBS opponent on Ohio State's schedule this year. That's actually 4 spots lower than Rutgers. So, yikes. So look, boys. Look,
they're behind Youngstown State. That's impressive.
Well, that's the worst of the FBS opponents. Pick Six preview. A lot of these publications didn't look at Youngstown State and didn't have a ranking for him. But of the FBS opponents on Ohio State's schedule, Indiana, according to those 4 publications, the worst opponent Ohio State will face this year. So look, man, Indiana stinks. I think we can probably say that with a relative high amount of confidence. So I don't know how much time we want to devote to actually talking about them as a team. So, PVH, I want to start with you. And, before we fire up the concernometer and talk about our level of concern for this game, I want a few thoughts from you on this game. What do you want to see from the Buckeyes on Saturday as they begin to set the tone for what we hope is a Big Ten championship and another trip to the college football playoff?
Well, dude, the most obvious thing, right? And everyone's been talking about it ad nauseum, and it's on and on and on. Is like, who is going to be the field goal kicker? Which it will be Aiden Fields, who won out a very close battle against the USC transfer, and so that is going to be the most important and riveting thing that I'll be looking for. Is to make sure that young man kicks as many extra points and field goals as he possibly can.
We are waiting with bated breath on who's going to step out there and kick the first extra point for the Buckeyes.
Kickoffs, I'm very concerned on kickoffs and not kicking the ball out of bounds and making sure that the kicking game, because as Coach Tressel always said, it's the most important facet of the game. Yeah, dude, it's going to be, honestly, I think I want to say the defense, but what are you going to learn against a team like Indiana? Probably not much. And the quarterback.
Yeah, you can learn something.
Well, you can, but you're not going to learn enough, right? I think it'll be, dude, honestly, I'm just excited to watch a football game. And the Buckeyes and get ready for what's coming up for the next 14 weeks.
What are you going to be looking for? Are you going to be paying extra special attention to any position group or, one side of the ball or the other?
I'm going to see if Trey's going to be healthy and see if he can live up to the hype once and for all. I think we're going to need him. Offensive line, right? I mean, dude, there's a lot of question marks with this team, and we know they're good, right? That's not a question of, are these guys going to be legit? We know they're legit, but we need them to be, playoff caliber. Can they take down a Georgia or an Alabama or a Michigan, and there's a lot of, interesting sort of subplots to it. The defense, the offensive line, the field goal kicker. I mean, tongue in cheek, right? But it might matter, right? If the guy puts a goddamn field goal through the goalpost against Georgia, we actually win that game. Not that it was his fault. It wasn't his fault.
Right.
And obviously quarterback. I mean,
yeah.
And
that small detail, that little battle.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm so fucking tired of that subject. It's kind of driving me crazy, like the Buckeye cartoon show about quarterback, because really what it's going to come down to is either we have 2 really good quarterbacks or no quarterback. I'm sure it's probably, the latter or the former, not the latter, or however that goes.
Yep.
I don't even want to talk about it because it's been so talked about ad nauseum. Of course, it's going to be really important, but I would say it's probably... You could make an argument, and I think I said this on the last time we talked, it could be the 3rd most important variable versus offensive line and no big plays on the defense.
Yeah.
So that would be my top 2.
I think I agree with you on that. CP, how about you? What are you going to be watching, paying special close attention to in this game?
Well, you know what? I want to see how, number one, our offensive line executes.
Yes.
And, regardless of who we're playing, it doesn't matter. I don't want it to be one of those, we're just playing down to their level. No, fuck that. I want to come out. I want to no, offensive line penalties. This is, I'll be happy. I want to see that unit be solid. And then from there, the least thing that I'm worried about is the quarterback situation. That's the least thing I'm worried about. I think Trey's going to have a big. I mean, and I've said this, since his freshman year, like, his freshman year, like, he could have been an All-American. Sophomore year, yeah, injury prone.
Yeah, huge.
From everything I've watched and everything I've read, that kid has just dialed himself in, and I think he's like, yeah, I don't want to like go out like that. I think he's going to have a big year. We got so much depth at running back. I'm excited to see Evan Pryor with the passing game with him too, like thrown out of the backfield over Evan Pryor
and Trey for that matter.
And you still have Mayan, who like, dude, I mean, obviously the kid can get you yards.
Yeah.
Okay. You got Dallas Hayden, who
like, is Evan Pryor even going to get to play?
Oh, dude, he's going to be the third back end.
I mean, that's
different schemes, I should say. Like he's like Mayan. Yeah. I mean,
he's a kid. I agree with you. Like he came in, he was pretty big hype.
Yeah, top 100 player.
Trey was number 1. Pryor was number 2 or 2 and 3, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was that. Yeah, you could be right. I'm not sure if he was quite that high, but I know he was a top 100 player. CP.
He was the number 1 all-purpose running back.
He was
when
okay.
He came out. Yep, okay, for sure. And then so that's the least I'm worried about. I'm really excited, and I know you guys gave me a lot of shit last year about like Knowles and benefit of the doubt, but I really believe that he like got his ass kicked last year, and he like realized this isn't Oklahoma State. I've got to adapt to the talent that I had in last year, but I think the defensive line is going to be unbelievable. Hall's back. Like, I mean, it's just, and you got the defensive backs, Sonny Styles. Wow. I'm so excited to watch that guy play.
Yeah.
I'm excited, dude.
Yeah. I'm with you guys.
I've got a few like over-unders that like before we like, as we go like towards the end, like,
okay,
get you guys opinions on these over-unders.
That'd be fun.
I'm excited, man. Like, Paige,
yeah.
I
love it. It's Christmas in August. I feel that way this time of year. Yeah, I'm going to echo pretty much everything you guys have said. I mean, aside from the completely obvious, the play of McCord and or Brown, which I think all of Buckeye Nation is going to be grading on every snap. I'm going to be watching the play of the offensive line. I think that's where my focus is going to start. In particular, the new tackles, Josh Simmons, Josh Fryer, and then the new starting center, Carson Hinsman. Now, I would expect Tom Allen's defense to test them with multiple fronts and a lot of creative pressures. You guys remember that game back in 2020 when Allen blitzed the shit out of Justin Fields, and he got to Fields in the second half of that game. That's kind of his MO. He likes to use exotic pressures, multiple fronts, and I would expect that's what we're going to see tomorrow with 3 new starters on the offensive line. So I'm going to be very curious to see how the offensive line holds up under those circumstances. And let's remember, Josh Simmons is playing left tackle for the first time in his career. We've talked about it before on this pod. He's coming off a pretty shaky 2022 at San Diego State. As we've discussed, he has a lot of raw talent, but he led SDSU in sacks, pressures, and penalties. But a fair amount of positive buzz around Simmons in fall camp.
Yesterday.
Well, and there has been a fair amount of positive buzz around him during fall camp. Ohio State's betting big on Simmons, and look, we all have to hope this works out. I mean, if it doesn't, the next man in line is likely either Tegra Shabola, who's more of a natural guard than a tackle, or your guy, CP, Luke Montgomery, the true freshman. And look,
yeah, dude, he's gonna see some time, man.
And he's been one young player that Ohio State has talked a ton about. I mentioned this in last Sunday's pod. He's one of those underclassmen, really, really pushing veteran players for playing time. I think he's going to be a part of the 2 deep, no doubt about it. And I hope he doesn't have to be elevated into a starting role. I hope he can just provide depth.
Easy like Sunday morning.
Yeah. Well, one thing they've been saying about Montgomery is that he could be a part of that Bison package where they put a running back's number on him and he comes in as an extra offensive lineman in short yardage situations. But a lot of positive buzz around Luke Montgomery. But this is an area to watch for sure.
Time to do that?
What's that?
Do they have to change his jersey in real time?
I think so. I think they must.
Does he have to wear a bison on his helmet? Like both sides?
I think that should be a rule, actually, CP. I think that should be a rule.
Bison!
Or put it on his helmet, right? A bison sticker.
Yeah, right on the helmet, both sides.
And
Although you should only have to put it on one side, though. You know what I mean? If you got like offensive line with a jersey out there with number 4,
it feels to me like it should go right on the front
side.
Yeah, it should go right on the front, actually, right, yes. Right above the face mask.
Face mask should be a bison. That's what it is.
And like you guys, I want to see how the carries for the running backs are going to be doled out. Chad, you mentioned it. By all accounts, TreVeyon Henderson had a great camp. He's completely healthy. He's the clear RB1. When he's talked about the running backs this season, Ryan Day has mentioned Henderson kind of in a class by himself, and all the other backs have been kind of, grouped together, including Mayan Williams. But look, I mean,
Chip as well, dude.
Yeah, Chip Trainum. I mean, the list goes on and on. Dallin Hayden, Evan Pryor
last year. He's like, he had a great year. He stepped up when he needed to because you had injuries to
He was great when his number was called.
Injuries, obviously Trey, and
yeah.
So he stepped up. So he he's been battling for time because he been there, done that. So
but they can't all get carries. No, right? I mean, they're going to have to narrow it down to 2, maybe 3. And look, after last season and all the injuries in that room, I mean, Day and Alford, they have to play to their depth this year. I think it would be idiotic for them to try and, turn Trey into a bell cow and give him 25 carries a game. I mean, he is not going to give you 300 carries in a season like J.K. Dobbins did back in 2019. You have to play to your depth.
Give the ball to Meatball in those short yardage situations.
I personally think they should take a page out of Georgia's book and play 3 running backs this year. That's what Georgia does. You divide up the carries, give them each a third of the carries. And I think also, with a new starting quarterback and 3 new starters on the offensive line, and it's an offensive line, by the way, that'll likely be much stronger in between the tackles than on the outside. I think it's going to make more sense for the Buckeyes to lean on the run game this year, kind of much more like they did in 2019 and 2020, when back in 2019 and 2020, they ran the ball about 60% of the time. But if you look at the last 2 seasons, 2021, they were only 46% of the time. Last year, it was about 53% of the time. I tend to think we're going to see the run-pass kind of ratio there. I think we're going to see the rushing attempts be up closer to that 60% range this year. I think Ohio State is going to lean on the run game. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous proposition with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka on the roster, but I just think it's imperative Ryan Day take advantage of the weapons and the depth in that running back room. I mean, what do you think, PVH? Am I out of line suggesting that?
Well, it depends on the offensive line, right? I mean, the running backs are only as good as your offensive line.
That's true.
It takes a special back like a Zeke, but we do have special backs,
We do.
And, Trey is, guess what? I mean, I'm not even going to say it because Chad's going to get upset. He's healthy right now, but play a game. Stay healthy for 12 games, right? And that's the last I'm going to say about that. And you're right. There's a ton of depth. I mean, but I thought you were going to say Mayan Henderson, right? So if you're going to pound it in the middle, then
Mayan Williams, Mayan Williams, yeah.
Isn't he your better option there? But no, I mean, dude, there's a lot of intrigue with this team coming into the season. There's a lot of question marks, but it's Ohio State. They're going to plug holes. They're going to plug holes with great players. And it's going to be fun to watch.
It is going to be fun to watch. The other thing that I want to see from the running backs, I want to see TreVeyon Henderson more involved in the passing game again. In his freshman year, he caught 27 passes for 312 yards, 11.6 yards per reception, 4 touchdown grabs, including 1 in the Michigan game, and he had the long one in the season opener against Minnesota that kind of broke that game open. Last season, only 4 receptions for TreVeyon Henderson, and I know he missed a lot of games, but he was never involved in the passing attack to the extent I thought he would be. He was a completely forgotten man. And I think, look, you've got McCord and Braun playing real snaps for the first time in their careers. Give them some easy throws to Henderson. And if you want to make it Evan Pryor out of the backfield, fine. I mean, he's a gifted pass catcher out of the backfield. That's fine. But get the ball to those backs in space. Make easy throws from McCord and Braun to those guys and let those guys go make plays. And then finally, one last thing I'll mention, because I do want to echo your sentiments on defense, fellas. I could not be more bullish on the talent, depth, versatility, and experience of the defensive personnel this year. I mean, think about it. You got the returning core of that defense, a lot of returning production and star potential. Eichenberg, Tuimoloau, Al Hall Jr., Lathan Ransom, Denzel Burke, that crew. But then they went into the portal and added 3 potential starters, 3 likely starters in Jihad Carter, Davison Ickbenosin, and Taiwan Malone. I mean, if those guys don't start, they're going to play a ton. They're going to be key rotational guys. And now you've got the emergence of talented underclassmen. CP, you mentioned him. Sonny Styles, Kenyatta Jackson, the defensive end, is a guy they've been mentioning over and over again in fall camp. CJ Hicks. And then how about this, fellas? Malik Hartford at free safety, the true freshman. This guy, all kinds of buzz around him. Almost 6'3", big hitter. So I think this is going to be the best Ohio State defense we've seen since 2019. I am totally bullish on what they have, their talent-wise, depth, versatility, that sort of thing. Now, my only concern, though, is will Jim Knowles pull the right levers and push the right buttons in the biggest moments that season? I want to see him do it. CP, I know you're in Knowles' corner. You're very positive about it, and I appreciate that. I just want to see him do it. Better situational awareness, less hubris. We've heard all the right things from him this offseason. He's been very self-reflective. He mentioned yesterday in a press conference that, he talked about evolving as a head coach. That's very important to him. So he's saying all the right things. I just want to see him do it. You're not in the Big 12 anymore, Jim, where everyone agrees to trade 60-yard touchdowns for 4 quarters, right? And you're working with a lot more talent and experience.
When we goose egg the Hoosiers, dude, will you please just maybe take a little pressure off my boy Jimmy Knowles, just to ease off him a little bit until the next game?
Yeah, if they scored 21.
Yeah,
well, then I don't know.
This is a terrible Indiana team.
Why would you say that?
I want to see, listen, they need to be in the single digits or low teens scoring wise in this game. I mean, I'm expecting, and I'll get to my score prediction, concern-o-meter stuff and all that later, but I'm expecting the defense to suffocate Indiana, and I'll be very disappointed if they don't. PVH, any other thoughts?
I just think, I don't know. I mean, in today's college football game, I don't think you shut teams out. So, but I'm with you on the defense, right? Obviously, I think everybody would echo that sentiment.
Yeah.
There's just no excuse. And so let me ask you this. Let's just fast forward to the end of the season. What is the barometer for the defense, total defense? If they're not a top 8 defense, is it a failure on Jim Knowles? I would say yes to that question.
I would agree with that.
This is right. I would. This is a lot of. I mean, we've always had a lot of talent, but I tell you what, this defense is top to bottom a very strong, sick unit. I mean, talent wise,
all the pieces are there. All the pieces are there at every level, and there's depth too. It's not like they just have one guy. I mean, if Eichenberg, something happens to either Eichenberg and Chambers, I think the kids behind him, a CJ Hicks, right? There's depth there.
Yeah,
there's depth in the secondary.
I've said this a couple times. There's no way they keep Hicks off the field. No way.
Could be tough. So, PVH, you asked me about the benchmark, the expectations for the defense. If we fast forward to the end of the regular season, what can we say was a successful season for the defense? I've got some statistical barometers I want to share. I'm setting the benchmark for the defense. I want them to mirror or exceed what the 2017 defense did. 4.44 yards per play. Last year they were at 5.18 yards per play. I want them under 5 yards well under 5 yards per play. I want the rush defense at about 105 yards per game. Last year they gave up about 121. Pass defense, 195 is what they gave up in 2017 per game. Last year was 200, so they were right about there. Although, at the end of the season, can we really say they were an improved pass defense if you look at what Michigan and Georgia did to them, as well as Maryland and Penn State? So I want to see improvement on the pass defense. Scoring defense, about 19 points per game. Last year they were at 21. But where the real difference is between last year and that 2017 unit, which is what I'm using as a benchmark, is the explosive plays. Last year we gave up 18 plays of 40 yards or more.
Hasn't that been the theme for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years?
Only the Greg Schiano defense 10. In 2018 was worse than what they gave up. In 2017, they only gave up 5 of those. and they only gave up 3 plays of 50 yards or more. So, and then what I always use this shorthand: splash plays for sacks, tackles for loss, and takeaways. I want to see minimum 45 sacks on the season for Ohio State. I want to see 115 tackles for loss, and I want to see 24 takeaways. Last year, Ohio State only had 34 sacks, so 11 fewer. Only 86 tackles for loss and 18 takeaways. So I want to see improvements across the board in all those areas.
And we're not going to go back and relitigate and cry. Man, we've had bad injuries.
Absolutely.
JSN and Trey. The guy, again, who's been popping up a lot, just today I was like, Mike Hall, dude, be healthy. Like if that dude is healthy, he's a difference maker in the interior.
I totally agree.
And, so health is a thing.
Huge.
And we're not going to go back and, cry about what happened before. But man, if those guys can just stay healthy, isn't
it funny that like I haven't heard the word Tumalua like one time on this podcast yet?
Yeah.
And which is like, insane. He's going to be like, he'll be an All-American this year. And I'll tell you what, Jack Sawyer will like finally live up to his hype, because I think he just got here and he's like, I don't know, like, he's a beast, dude. Like, and he hasn't really done much at all. He's had a couple, like handful of like really good plays, but I think this year is like the year that like he's gonna like show people that like this is a reason I was a 5-star like recruit. You know what I mean? I think that there's just so many people that you could mention on this defense, from like D-line, it's just I think I'm so stoked.
The talent is there. I do think I want the production to match the hype, though. Tuimoloau had that great game against Penn State. One of the greatest individual performances I've seen in a single game ever. Maybe even better than anything Chase Young did in 2019. But then we didn't really hear from him after that. And Jack Sawyer was playing out of position in the jack position last year. We've talked about that. He's heading into year 3, hadn't really done much. So I want the production to match the hype. That's what I'm looking for. And then, we mentioned him earlier, Kenyatta Jackson, who they think might be the most natural pass rusher of the 3. I think Larry Johnson has 3 starters at defensive end that he would feel good about starting. So just that's all I'm asking of the defensive line. I want the production to match the hype. It starts with health, as you've mentioned, PBH. You got to be healthy. You got to be able to make it through 12 games. And whatever, they need to do to keep these guys healthy, do it. There is a little bit of depth there. Play to your depth on the defensive line as well. But
I think we might get glimpses of silver bullets back this year, boys.
That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting. Are we all in agreement on that? That it is top 10, top 5 defense territory. Anything less than that would be a disappointment. PBH, I think you're on record with that.
Yeah, it's got to be top 6. There's no reason why. Like if there's not, if it's, I'm not going to say the injury, but I just said it. There's a fundamental problem if they're not. Half those guys. I always go back to how many of those guys are going to play at the next level. I don't know. You can make a probably strong case that like 10 out of 12. You can make a case like 14 of those guys that are going to be rotating in at some level are going to be playing at the next level. There's zero excuse.
Yeah, the talent is there now. I think we could say you could give Jim Knowles a pass if you want. He was not working with as much talent last year.
You would have fired him.
Oh, I didn't give him a pass. No, because I felt like there was plenty enough talent there not for them to be historically bad at giving up. Look, if you were talented enough to get to heading into the 4th quarter of a college football playoff semifinal with a 2-touchdown lead, they had enough talent to get to that point, heading into the 4th quarter with a 2-touchdown lead against Georgia, and then suddenly they weren't talented enough. I think I think part of it was I think the coaching staff put the players in bad situations here and that. We don't have to relitigate it. I don't want to get into it. There were moments where Jim Knowles, I think, needed a little bit of help. I think he was a little bit over his skis. I think he was adjusting to the level of competition. No disrespect to Oklahoma State, but
you can go ahead and disrespect.
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't want to. Listen, I've been as hard as any fan on Knowles, and I don't want to bore our listeners to death, kind of relitigating all that. And I want to be positive heading into a new season. You've got 3 new additions from the transfer portal. You have young players elevating their play and pushing, they're pushing for playing time. Guys like Kenyatta Jackson, I mentioned him before, C.J. Hicks, Sonny Styles, that crew, and health. Guys are healthy. Mike Hall Jr. So there's very good, and add all that to a lot of returning production and potential star power. The Tommy Eichenbergs, the Tui Moloaus, I've mentioned that. So a lot of reason for optimism on defense. I totally agree. All right.
I don't think Steele Chambers will be starting at linebacker, and but by the time we get to the mid to into the season,
I don't know.
Throw that out there right now.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they seem to have a lot of faith in him. He's played well. He's a steady hand there. But I do agree with you that C.J. Hicks should see some time. They have to figure out some kind of a timeshare there. You don't want to waste 2 years of C.J. Hicks sitting on the bench, because if he's as good as we all think, you got next year with him and then he's gone.
I just had a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because we're all just jizzing on the defense. How about we lean on our I don't know how to ask the question, but maybe should we expect our defense to carry an Ohio State team through, a season, which honestly hasn't happened. I don't even know when, but
2019, yeah.
Yeah. So
yes.
why flip the script, right? With the unknowns that we do, right, have with quarterback and offensive line. Defense, you got to go win us a fucking national championship.
Yes. And it's got to be more than just getting off the field on third down. I'm talking about game-changing, tide-turning plays. I think this defense has that capability at every level.
Roster-wise, bench, full, starters, all roster combined. This is we're third, talent level, in the country, behind Georgia and Alabama. A couple of them have this, prior, ESPN probably that has us at 3, behind Alabama at 1, Georgia 2. But the talent is there, and not to switch gears here, but I'm going to tell you, this defense I'm so excited for, and McCord is just going to he's going to surprise the people. I mean, we've got more weapons on offense than I can remember.
So hold that thought. Hold that thought, CP. I want to go back to the talent, because you mentioned it. The talent rankings. I think this is important that we bring this up. I've got some stuff I want to share on that, and I'm glad you brought this up. So I was listening to the podcast with Doug Maurice and Austin Ward and Bill Landis, Birmingham, those guys. Maurice looked at the average recruiting ranking of the top 24 players on the Georgia and Ohio State rosters. These are the top 12 players on each side of the ball that are expected to get the most snaps for each program. Georgia's average player rating is 224. So the lower the number, the better. Ohio State's is 151, significantly better than Georgia's. So the Buckeyes are significantly better in the recruiting rankings among the players who are expected to carry both teams this season. And let me take that a little further. Also, according to the 24/7 Sports 2023 blue chip ratio, which is basically the percentage of 4 and 5 stars that make up each roster, Ohio State is second nationally, only to Alabama, with a blue chip ratio of 85%. Georgia is third at 77%. And then you look at fellow Big Ten teams, Penn State and Michigan, they're all the way down at 13th and 14th. 55% for Penn State, 54% for Michigan. And then finally, in the 24/7 team talent composite, which is a very similar measure to the blue chip ratio, Ohio State is third behind only Bama and Georgia.
I don't know if there's one, Herb Street and the new dude on College Game Day, they both have Ohio State. Herb Street had Ohio State and Alabama in the national championship.
Yeah.
But it's everybody else aside from that, Michigan beats our ass. Although I think if you have Michigan beating us and us still being in the college playoff, final, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
PVH, were you going to say something?
There's a narrative out there that says Michigan is built to beat Ohio State and Ohio State is built to win a national championship.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to reconcile that, but at the end of the day, they just have to go out and do it and prove it. The defense has let that team down. It's cost them national championships, at least 2.
That was yesterday.
Maybe 3. This is the year for the defense to win them a national championship because of the quarterback and the offensive line. Just do it.
Yeah.
Fucking
do it.
making excuses and go do it.
Yeah. I think we're all in lockstep here about the defense. I think we're all in lockstep about all these other, questions about the offense and what we're expecting to see. I think pretty much very little disagreement here. So let's fire up the concernometer here. I want to get your concernometer readouts for this game. PVH, I'm going to start with you. Give me your concernometer readout.
PVH stepped away. I think he went to get another shot of Patron or Don Julio.
No, I did.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Right. This one's for Uncle Uzo. I'm going to have a little shot of tequila here. What was the question? My concernometer zero. Score.
Hold on. Before you get to the score, CP, give me your concernometer score.
6.
You're a 6?
No.
Come on.
No, you know it's a 0. I say a 0 if we're playing, no matter who we're playing.
Okay, so you guys are both 0.
Yeah, 0.
Okay.
Flat line.
All right. Of course, I always go higher, 2.5. Look, it's reasonable to expect a little wonkiness in the first half, fresh out of camp, new starting quarterbacks, 3 new starters on the offensive line. By the way, it's also worth mentioning that Ohio State has trailed at the half in their last 4 season openers on the road, and that includes the last time the Buckeyes opened in Bloomington against Indiana back in 2017. Buckeyes trailed 14-13 at the half before pulling away 49-21. But I think this Indiana team might be significantly worse than that 2017 team. But I am on alert for kind of a funky first half that might keep the game close while Ohio State. Well, just a little funkiness. You got new quarterbacks, 3 new starters on the offensive line. That might keep the game close for a little bit. But over 4 quarters, too much talent, too much depth. I think the Buckeyes pull away and win comfortably. I'll give you guys my score prediction in a second. I'm not sure they're going to cover, though. Remember, the line is 30. PVH, I'm going to kick this back to you. I'm going to kick this back to you, PVH. Give me your score prediction.
We already bet that, dude. No, you make me nervous when you. I think. Can you ask you my happy-o-meter? My happy-o-meter is a 10. Just to watch some football.
I hope you guys took the point, gave them the points.
It's Ohio State minus 30, over under 59. PVH. Before you give us a score prediction, Ohio State minus 30, over under is 59.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say 47-2.
There's that safety. 47-2. I love it. CP, how about you?
I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm gonna go 52-10.
52-10. Okay, I like it.
Yep.
I've got Ohio State 42-10. I'm going to take the under, but I have Ohio State covering. Heavy doses of Trevion Henderson and the Ohio State running game.
Big.
While McCord and Brown are figuring things out, the Ohio State defense smothers the IU offense. So, Paige, to your point, does the defense carry the day? I think they will. We're going to see them do that several times over the course of the season. I think it happens for the first time this Saturday, and I think the running game also gets involved in carrying the Buckeyes. This is what I want to see from the Ohio State defense. I want to see, and I think we'll get plenty of those splash plays, sacks, tackles for loss, some turnovers, and I'm predicting a defensive score in this game. A pick 6 from the secondary is my prediction. PVH, what do you think of that?
I love it. I was actually just thinking, if I gave you plus or minus 2.5, actually 3 of Ohio State turnovers. Do you want the over or under?
So these are Ohio State forcing turnovers on IU?
Yes, 3.
I'll take the over. Fuck it. Why not? I'll take the over.
For 20?
$20.
Sure.
Well, you want a little bit of that action, CP? Put your money where your mouth is, buddy.
Dude, I'm all about the D. I'm not no.
Okay.
But I do have a few very interesting, as I mentioned earlier, over-unders.
Okay, but are you going to take this bet from PVH? I'm taking the over. Are you taking the over, CP?
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
All right, and you're taking the under.
You for 40.
Okay. All right, CP, go ahead with these over-unders, man.
Payable in South.
All right. Marvin Harrison Jr. receiving yards, 115, over-under.
Under.
What?
Under.
I'll take the over. I'll take the over.
Okay. Trevion Henderson touchdowns 2.
I'll take the over.
Okay.
You're taking the under, PBH?
Over.
Okay.
Oh, my boy, coming back to 3-2. Right. Kyle McCord passing yards 275.
Under. Because he's got to share snaps. Devin Brown's going to get snaps in this game, man.
I'm going over, dude.
Put my dog
He's lighting that shit up like a fucking Christmas tree in the first half. Tommy Eichenberg tackles 9.5.
Over.
Yeah.
Under.
Oh, cornerback interceptions 1.5.
Over.
All right.
Now, this is a secondary that didn't have this. These are corners that did not have a single interception last year, but I'll take the over. Fuck it.
Yes. All right. Thanks for playing, boys.
All right. For every one of the, did you write that down?
Well, it's on record. It's
all recorded.
It's all recorded. We'll.
Yeah, but no one listens.
I'm sure one of our fans is out there listening. Oh my God, he said under.
Corcoran. Get Corcoran on the Excel spreadsheet.
One of the 10 people that listens to this podcast will write this down for us, and
Corcoran will. The secretary treasurer Mike Corcoran will write this down, and every one of those bets are $5.
Mikey.
All right, fellas. Hey, listen, there's only really one other game of intrigue that we don't have to weigh in here at all, but it's Florida State LSU. I think that's Sunday night. Other than that, I think it is a little bit of kind of, it's a heavy slate, a lot of games, not a ton of intrigue. Oh, by the way, right now, number 14, Utah leads Florida 7-3. And it's 3-zip Gophers over the Cornhuskers right now. They're 9 minutes, 39 seconds to play in the second quarter. That is a vintage Big Ten game right there, boys. 3-zip with 3 points on the board.
Wow.
Excellent. All right. Listen, I'm going to let you guys go. We've been at a pretty good effort. We're about coming up on an hour so far. Why don't we end?
A couple things, Z, real quick.
Sure.
That's cool with you guys. It's so good to be on with you boys. One of the best days ever. First Ohio State football game.
Yes.
Labor Day weekend. I want to thank you for all those laborers out there. I mean, obviously, that's not what it's all about, but you know what I mean. You guys know this.
All those Goodyear
Let's
workers.
go, Buckeyes. You're going to be at the game, Z, man.
I'll be there. Yeah.
We're going to hook you up with Kurt Kramer, our boy. Little props out to Kurt Kramer. He's still in a big tailgate there in Bloomington. Z will hook you up with that, dude, and bring us home a victory, brother.
All right.
Big balloons out there.
Yeah.
I'll be out there representing the TSS.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Hey, listen, thanks so much for making the time. And we'll reconvene next week to have a look at this game and then look ahead to Youngstown State.
Thanks, Z.
Have a good night, boys.
Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
You've been listening to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and visit our website at southstandsosu.com.